Here is the 5 most very important things that you missed in crypto this week. I'm going to be covering everything that was very important and that you missed out on. This was a huge week. You have brand new news regarding President Trump and President Xi Jinping. They were able to cut the rates, and quantitative tightening was announced by Fed Chair Powell to end in December. What does this mean for liquidity? Then we have some JP Morgan news. We have some Scott Bessent news. We have some Michael Saylor news. So we will be covering all of this, but I want to begin, like we always do, with some Bitcoin analysis. Today is a Sunday night. The futures market opens in roughly 5 hours-ish, and I want to show you what I think will happen in the very short term, and also in the macro picture. If you enjoy these updates, because we make daily pieces of content, and then every Sunday is the crypto recap video, make sure to destroy the like button so as many people as possible can see this video, and don't forget to subscribe. We're only 900 subscribers away from 60,000 subscribers. So if you're not subscribed yet, make sure to become a crypto kid by pressing that subscribe button. With that said, let's quickly start off with the Bitcoin TA, and then we'll cover the biggest news. When we zoom into the 4-hourly and 1-hourly timeframes, there is a very small CME gap, almost not apparent. I was praying to the CME gap gods to not have a CME gap this weekend. We've had it for like the past 5 weekends, and you came down and filled it every single time. So I'm very happy that we are CME gapless this week. There is about $200 of a gap, but it's just too small of a gap to create any issues. I think as soon as the futures market opens, we're going to be filling it. We do have an inverse head and shoulders that is taking place here. We do have a lot of resistance to the upside, but if we can break above the $11,000 200 mark, then I think we can reverse back into the $113,500 range, which is the red moving average that you can see here. It's been resistance in the short term. You got rejected from that level. You also had a double top, which we predicted, and it broke down from the support of this red line. So if you are able to go above $11,100 to $200, I think 13.5K in the short term can be reached. I would be paying close attention to this pattern on the daily time frame. It is an ascending triangle pattern. We did bounce from supports, so it's still bullish for any short-term traders. I think we're still bullish. I'm in all of my existing long positions. I will be closing my long positions if Bitcoin loses the macro supply and demand zone. And this supply and demand zone, I mean, you want to be not falling below the highs that were created last year December, this year January. Bitcoin has a good history of bouncing from those prior highs that you make. These highs were created in March of 2024. You came down to it April of this year post tariffs, and then you were able to bounce into new all-time highs. If you lose this box, in very simple terms, I think 101 at the 54 simple moving average is going to be your final opportunity to see a bounce. So what I'm doing is I do have a limit order over on weeks to buy Bitcoin for the final time at 101.1K. If you are to lose that line of support, then sadly we're going to be flipping bearish. But for now, I am very much bullish. I don't see a reason to be bearish just yet. And that is the recap of my analysis. If you are looking for a place to be trading Bitcoin, first link in the description down below lets you get a 20% deposit bonus on weeks. And then Pinex is where I do my trading bots. With this link, you can deposit $100 and get a $100 bonus to use in trading bots. So make sure to check that out. All right, that is the TA segment for today. Now let's go over the breaking news that you missed out this week in crypto. So firstly, President Trump and President Xi Jinping, they met to discuss trade. We were supposed to have 100% tariffs that were going to be initiated onto the market yesterday. And that fear caused Bitcoin to dump to 102 a few weeks back, and it caused altcoins to dump 70% within a 20-minute period. We knew that likely there was going to be some sort of a trade deal, but sadly markets did get scared. And as we sort of predicted, you can see that President Trump mentioned my G2 meeting, referring to America and China, with President Xi of China was a great one for both of our countries. This meeting will lead to everlasting peace and success. God bless both China and the USA. So trade fears for now are out of the question. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent mentioned that the US and China plan to sign a trade deal over the coming week. So be careful. The next 7 days are also quite important in crypto. Then the second most important thing I would argue was the interest rates being cut by 25%. That was the predicted rate cuts. More interestingly, quantitative tightening is going to be ending December the 1st, Liquidity overall has dropped to a danger zone that we've not seen since 2019, 2020. Regional banks are suffering. A liquidity injection has to arrive. And it looks like we could start seeing a liquidity injection beginning of next year. That would be great for your altcoins. So Q1 of 2026 could finally be when our altcoins begin to pump. JP Morgan's Jamie Dimon, oh my god, this guy is one of the biggest bears of crypto and Bitcoin history. I think he sits alongside Il Capo of crypto. This week there was a conference in Saudi Arabia, and he was sitting on a panel with Larry Fink of BlackRock, who launched the most successful ETF in history with IBIT, the Bitcoin ETF. And in this panel, he was asked what he thinks about crypto, and essentially if he's still bearish. And then with a smile on his face, he mentioned that crypto will be used by all of us to facilitate better transactions. Unbelievable. Not so long ago, JP Morgan started offering, or is going to start offering, clients loans against their Bitcoin ETF holdings and also their Ethereum ETF holdings. Do you know what that means? Actually, they're going to start offering it for your Bitcoin spot and Ethereum spot holdings. The last time they started doing this was for treasuries, for actual bonds. Bitcoin and Ethereum are facing massive amounts of adoption. Legislation is catching up. Even if you do see a dump in the short term, I think if you're an investor for the next 10, 20 years, you're going to be winning, in my opinion. And finally, Scott Bessent congratulated Bitcoin 17 years, because we had 17 years ago, Bitcoin publish its white paper. Satoshi published the Bitcoin white paper. He said, 17 years after the white paper, the Bitcoin network is still operational and more resilient than ever before. Bitcoin never shuts down. The government is in a shutdown. I think the fact that he said this is quite huge, and I think they're cooking something. I think some big things are coming for crypto, or at least Bitcoin, from a US adoption perspective, whether it's Bitcoin bonds or a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Something big is happening. This guy is the CFO of the United States of America. Finally, today, Michael Saylor posted that he's essentially bought more Bitcoin. So tomorrow, in 24 hours, we're going to be figuring out exactly how much Bitcoin Michael Saylor has bought. And guys, that is a wrap for all of the most important things you missed out in crypto this week. If you enjoy this content, I'm recording in no AC for some reason, but if you did enjoy this content, make sure to destroy the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you all on my daily crypto video tomorrow. Take care, and as always, bye-bye.